The first thing you need to understand is this. I've been hunting my whole life. I'm not some city guy who got lost in the woods with a GoPro and bad decisions. I grew up in Montana. My dad taught me how to track deer before I could even properly read. By 16, I could sit in freezing silence for hours without moving, just waiting for the right moment. So when I tell you something was wrong out there, I mean it. It started last November, late season. Snow had already started sticking, not heavy yet, but enough to leave clean tracks. Perfect conditions. I was hunting alone. That wasn't unusual. In fact, I preferred it. No noise, no distractions, just you, your rifle, and the forest breathing around you. I set up near a stretch of dense woodland about 5 miles from the nearest road. I'd hunted that area before. Plenty of deer trails, a small frozen creek, and a natural clearing that animals tended to cross around dusk. Everything felt normal. At first. Around 3 p.m., I spotted tracks. Fresh. Large buck. Deep impressions in the snow. Wide stride, steady pace. I crouched down, brushing my glove lightly over one of the prints. Still sharp around the edges. Maybe an hour old. Perfect, I whispered to myself. I started tracking. The forest was quiet. Too quiet, maybe. But that happens sometimes in winter. Animals move less, sound carries differently. Still, something felt off. You know that feeling like your instincts are trying to tell you something your brain hasn't caught up with yet? I ignored it. Big mistake. After about 40 minutes, the tracks started to change. At first, it was subtle. The spacing got uneven. One step normal, next step slightly longer, then shorter, then dragged. I frowned. Injured, I muttered, but it didn't look like a limp. It looked wrong, like whatever made those tracks didn't quite understand how to walk properly. I kept going, because that's what hunters do. We follow. The deeper I went, the denser the forest became. Branches thicker, light dimmer, snow untouched except for those tracks. No birds, no wind, nothing. Just me and whatever I was following. Then I noticed something that made me stop cold. The tracks weren't just deer tracks anymore. I crouched again, heart starting to thump harder. The hoof prints were still there, but beside them were something else. Long, narrow, almost like human footprints. Bare. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I looked around, still nothing. Just trees. Endless trees. Probably overlapping tracks, I said out loud, trying to calm myself. Maybe someone else was out here earlier. Maybe I was overthinking it. Yeah, that had to be it. So I kept going. About 10 minutes later, I heard it. A sound. Soft. Almost like breathing. I froze. Every hunter knows that moment. When you stop moving and the forest starts talking again. I listened. Nothing. Then, again. Closer this time. A slow, wet inhale, followed by a long exhale. I slowly raised my rifle, scanning. Left, right, behind me. Nothing. But then I realized something worse. The breathing was matching my pace. I started walking again, slowly, carefully, and sure enough, there it was. Step, breath. Step, breath. Like something was walking just out of sight, keeping perfect distance. Hello? I called out. My voice sounded small out there. No response. But the breathing stopped, and that silence, that was worse. I should have turned back. I know that now. But hunters are stubborn and curious, and sometimes that curiosity gets you killed. I pushed forward. Eventually, the trees opened up into a small clearing, and that's where I saw it. At first, I thought it was just a deer, standing perfectly still at the far edge. large, massive rack of antlers, bigger than anything I'd ever seen. But something wasn't right. It was facing me, too directly, too still. Deer don't stand like that. They twitch, they adjust, they react. This thing didn't move. I slowly raised my rifle, lined up the scope, and looked closer. I wish I hadn't, because what I saw wasn't a deer. The body, yes, covered in fur. Wrong proportions, but close enough. But the face was human. Not fully, but enough. The eyes were forward-facing, not on the sides like a deer. Deep, dark, and locked directly onto me. And the mouth, it was smiling. Not like an animal, like something pretending to be one. I stumbled back, nearly dropping my rifle. "What the hell?" I whispered. And then it spoke. Not clearly, not like us, but I heard it. A broken, stretched version of a human voice. "Help me." Every instinct in my body screamed to run, but I didn't. I couldn't, because part of me felt sorry for it. That was my second mistake. I took a step forward, the creature's head tilted, just slightly, like it was studying me. Then it took a step, and that's when the illusion broke completely, because its legs bent the wrong way. Too long, too thin, and when it moved, it made that same sound. Step, breath, step, breath. I turned and ran. Branches whipped past my face as I sprinted through the forest. I didn't care about the tracks anymore. Didn't care about the hunt. All I cared about was getting out. Behind me, I heard it. Not running, walking. Slow, steady, keeping pace, like it knew I couldn't escape. I didn't stop until I reached my truck. I practically threw myself inside, locked the doors, and started the engine with shaking hands. As the headlights flicked on, I saw something at the edge of the trees, watching me. Tall, too tall, antlers scraping against low branches, and those eyes, still locked on me, still smiling. I sped out of there without looking back. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. A week later, I went back. I know, stupid, but I needed to know if it was real, or if I'd lost my mind. The tracks were gone, no sign of anything unusual, just normal forest, normal silence. I almost convinced myself it never happened, until I saw the tree, right at the edge of that clearing. Something had been carved into the bark, deep, fresh. 3 words, "Found you again." And beneath it, a single print. Not a hoof, not quite human, but something in between. And that's when I heard it, right behind me. That same breathing, closer than ever. "Help me." I didn't turn around, I just ran. And I never went back. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I still hear it. Step, breath, step, breath, coming from just outside my window. And last night, for the first time, I saw antlers. I don't hunt anymore. Not after that night. Not after what I heard and what followed me home. This happened 2 years ago in northern Wisconsin. It was supposed to be a simple weekend trip, just me and my cousin Eric. We'd been planning it for months. Early winter bow hunting, deep in public land where hardly anyone goes. The kind of place where your phone loses signal and the forest feels older than it should. Eric was the experienced one. I was still learning. We reached the site just before sunset, set up a small camp, nothing fancy, just a tent, fire pit, and 2 tree stands about 200 yards apart overlooking a narrow game trail. "Stay in your stand till at least midnight," Eric told me while checking his gear. "Midnight?" I laughed. "You serious?" That's when they move, he said, dead serious. And whatever you do, don't fall asleep. I wish I had listened more carefully. By 8 p.m., I was in my stand, about 20 feet above ground, strapped in, bow ready, everything quiet. Too quiet. You notice things when you're alone like that. The way the wind changes direction without warning. The way the trees creak, even when there's no wind. The way silence can feel heavy. Hours passed. Nothing. No deer, no movement, no sound. Around 11:30 p.m., I started getting tired. My eyelids felt heavy. My grip loosened. And despite Eric's warning, I drifted. I don't know how long I was out. A few minutes maybe. But I woke up to something that didn't belong there. My name. Arun. I froze. The voice was soft. Close. Too close. Arun. It sounded like Eric. Relief hit me instantly. Eric, I whispered down into the darkness. No answer. Then again. Arun, come down. Something about the way he said it felt wrong. Not the voice. The tone. Flat. Emotionless. Like someone reading lines they didn't understand. Where are you? I asked. Silence. Then, below you. My heart started pounding. I slowly leaned forward and looked down. Nothing. Just darkness. The beam of my headlamp barely reached the ground, and even then, it only showed patches of snow and shadows. No, you're not, I said, trying to sound confident. That's when the voice changed. Still Eric, but not quite. Come down, Arun. Longer this time. Stretched, like something learning how to speak. I gripped my bow tighter. Eric, this isn't funny. Then I heard something else, from the distance. A shout. Don't move! It was Eric, but he wasn't below me. He was far away, back at his stand. My blood ran cold, because that meant whatever was under me wasn't him. And then it laughed. A low, broken sound. Wrong one. I jerked back in my seat, nearly losing balance. Below me, something moved. Not fast, not aggressive. Slow, deliberate, circling the base of my tree. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Snow shifting under weight. Heavy weight. I held my breath, didn't move, didn't even blink. Then it stopped, right beneath me. And then I heard climbing. A hand, no, something like a hand, grabbing bark. Another, pulling itself up. I aimed my headlamp downward, and what I saw still doesn't feel real. It was human-shaped, but wrong. Its limbs were too long, its joints bent strangely, and its face? It was trying to be Eric. Not perfectly, like a bad copy. Eyes slightly too far apart, mouth too wide, skin stretched tight, and it was smiling. Arun, it said again. I panicked. I drew my bow and fired. The arrow hit it in the shoulder. It didn't react, didn't scream, didn't fall. It just looked at the arrow, then back at me, and smiled wider. Good shot. Then it dropped. Gone. Silence returned. I didn't move for an hour, maybe more. When I finally climbed down, my legs barely worked. I ran to Eric's stand. He was pale, shaking. You heard it too? I asked. He nodded. It called my name, he said. We didn't say anything else. We just packed up and left. Didn't sleep, didn't stop, didn't look back. I thought that was the end. I was wrong, because 3 nights later, I heard it again, outside my house. Arun. Same voice, same tone. I froze in bed. Then, a knock. 3 slow taps on my window. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Come down. That's when I realized something horrifying. My bedroom was on the 2nd floor. There was nothing outside that window. No balcony, no ledge, nothing. But something was standing there, waiting, and it knew my name. I don't hunt anymore, and I never answer voices that call me from the dark, because sometimes they learn. I used to think the scariest thing in the woods was what you could see. I was wrong. It's what watches you without ever showing itself. This happened during duck hunting season in Louisiana. Swampland, miles of shallow water, dead trees, thick fog, and silence that feels wrong. If you've never been out there, you won't understand. Sound doesn't travel normally. Sometimes it feels like the swamp is listening. There were 3 of us, me, Josh, and Caleb. We rented a small flat-bottom boat and headed out before sunrise, around 4:30 a.m. Pitch black, only the hum of the motor and the occasional splash of something moving in the water. "Man, I hate this place already," Caleb muttered. Josh laughed. "Relax, it's just water and trees." I didn't say anything, because something about that fog felt alive. We reached our spot just before dawn, a small open pocket surrounded by dead cypress trees, perfect for ducks. We set up a blind, camouflage netting, decoys in the water, everything ready. Then we waited. Time passed slowly. The sky started to lighten just a little, but the fog didn't lift. That was the first weird thing. Usually, once the sun starts coming up, fog begins to thin out. Not here. Here, it got thicker. "Heavy today," Josh said, adjusting his hat. Then we heard it, a splash. Close. Too close. We all turned toward the sound. Nothing. Just fog. "Probably a gator," Caleb said. "Maybe, but gators don't usually come that close to boats with people in them." We brushed it off. Then it happened again. Splash. This time on the other side, like something circling us. I felt a knot form in my stomach. "All right, that's weird," I said. Josh nodded. "Yeah, stay sharp." Minutes passed. Silence again. Then we heard something that made all of us freeze. A duck call. Perfect. Too perfect. It sounded exactly like one of ours, but none of us were calling. We looked at each other. "Did you?" Caleb started. "No," Josh said immediately. The call came again. Closer. Mocking. Like it was copying us, but we hadn't made a sound. "Okay, that's not normal," I whispered. Josh slowly reached for his shotgun. "Probably another hunter," he said, but his voice didn't sound convinced. Because here's the thing, we hadn't seen a single light. No boat, no movement, nothing. And in that kind of fog, you should at least hear someone. But this felt different. Then the voice came. "Help!" Soft, barely human, coming from the water. Caleb stood up immediately. "Someone's out there!" "Sit down," Josh snapped. "Help me." Closer now, right at the edge of the boat. I leaned over slightly, trying to see through the fog. "Hello?" I called out. Big mistake, because the moment I spoke, everything went silent. Completely silent. No water, no wind, no insects, nothing. Then, right behind me, my own voice whispered, "Hello." I spun around. No one. Josh and Caleb were staring at me. "What?" Josh said. I started, but I stopped because I realized something. They hadn't heard it. Only I did. Then Caleb whispered, "Did you guys hear that?" Josh and I looked at him. "What?" I asked. Caleb's face had gone pale. It sounded like me," he said. My stomach dropped. Josh slowly stood up. "All right, we're leaving." No arguments. We started pulling in the decoys as fast as we could. That's when the water started moving. Not splashing, shifting. Like something massive was just beneath the surface, circling. Faster now, closer. The boat rocked slightly. Then a hand came out of the water. Gray, bloated, not right. It grabbed the edge of the boat. Caleb screamed and kicked it. The hand disappeared instantly. Gone. No ripples, no splash, nothing. Just still water again. We didn't wait. We started the engine and got out of there as fast as possible. None of us spoke, not until we reached land. And even then, we didn't talk about it much. Just enough to confirm one thing. We all heard different voices, calling for help, using our own voices. We agreed never to go back, and we didn't. But a week later, Josh called me. His voice was shaking. "Did you tell anyone?" he asked. "Tell who what?" "About the swamp." "No." Silence. Then he said something that still keeps me up at night. I'm hearing it again. My chest tightened. "Where?" A pause. Then, "Inside the house." I didn't say anything, because I already knew. It didn't stay in the swamp. It followed. And sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I hear water dripping, even when everything is dry. And once, just once, I heard my own voice from the other side of the door. "Help." And I never opened it, because deep down, I know if I do, something else will come in.